All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Altacast number 22, I believe. Almost a year's worth of Altacasts. 24th will be our year's worth. Is it 24? No, 26, right? How does it work?
That means there's over 20 hours straight of footage of you out there, Boramy. We're approaching the point where someone could spend an entire day
just listening to
you.
Yes. I don't know if we'll do anything special for it. I don't have anything in mind right now. We're like our brains are fried with the stuff we currently have in the works. So to give everyone an update on what we're doing, I am currently doing a lot of the art for the trials coming out. It's a fair amount of art left to do. Some kind of full steam into that. It's gonna be quite an experience, I think, for people to see it, provided it all goes well. So I'm excited for that.
It's just so different, I think, is the thing. It's right now there's no there's no structured combat, and by structured I literally mean structure in the building sense. Like there's all combat is currently in the wild right now. It's like in the caverns or it's in the
forest.
In the forest or whatever. So it's really interesting to see a bit more of a it is more of a dungeon experience. Like it feels like you're more
you're inside something that like you're fighting inside of like an interior, I guess, which is a very different feeling to most of the game, which I hadn't thought about actually, and like until you mentioned it just now, that this is kind of the first time people are gonna fight in an environment that has like walls and doorways and like windows and boundaries.
I've only seen the environment, so I can't judge the experience itself. It's just that the environment, it's just very different. I think it's going to be an epic feeling when people first come across this, because they're going to notice something is up, and then they're going to be like, wait a second, wait a second, this is the trial. And that's for people who know that the trials exist. But for other people, they might be heading in, and then it's like really shock. It's just, I'm excited to see how people take it, because just discovering this is a cool experience. So.
Yeah. So that's kind of what I'm working on. Joel and Saul are kind of working on the logical gameplay stuff. So Joel's helping us out for a bit to get it over the line. Primarily helping Saul kind of work through some of the logic stuff that's implicated with getting in the caves. Now that we have that.
Yeah, it's a bit of a quirky thing, because caves are completely generated, so there's nothing that we need to insert into the world. It just generates it. Whereas this is like the first thing that we're really inserting into the world on a large scale. So that's the big difficulty. So the problems that have popped up with that are the things I've been addressing, and then Sol's been addressing the actual functionality of the trial itself.
So Timo should be coming back and joining us from next week, from like this week, I guess, onwards, which is glad he's back from his personal duties. Serena, Victor, and Ivy are still kind of doing some optimization stuff. Tiarna and Sebastian are working on cosmetics as usual.
Some great
cosmetics. The ones that are coming out tomorrow, I think, from when this goes public, right? Because we released this on our Tuesdays. Yeah. So
probably, I think one of the cosmetics this rotation is probably one of the most requested cosmetics of all time. So if that makes you think you know what it is, awesome. You may or may not be correct, but it's like a very popular concept. So
yeah, it looks awesome. It's very moody cosmetic, and I think it invokes a lot of feel and atmosphere to it, which I think is really cool. It's the last of this year's Halloween rotations, so we kind of let it bleed into November because there were just so many ideas and cosmetics that we'd made, and we were kind of wanting to release them.
And we had old cosmetics. The problem with having exclusives and like Halloween exclusives, but also wanting to put new cosmetics out is like we got to fit them all in. Yeah. So we have stuff that we're like, well, we still want new stuff, but at some stage we're gonna have too many cosmetics to fit in rotations, and then who knows what we'll do.
We'll see. There's a chance we might try and like have more cosmetics per rotation during those seasons. It's probably the first thing we'll experiment with in that foray. And team is doing business stuff, and I think that pretty much covers everybody. So that brings us to the main topic of today's Altacast, which I don't think I've introduced yet. We're going to be talking about story in a Township Tale. So some of you may have caught some of Joel's stream where he talks about like town development and things like that. And so particularly with a lot of the kind of lore things that we've hinted at in the cosmetics, we saw the community really get involved with trying to figure out the meaning behind the rotations and the characters that are in there.
So much like conspiracy.
It's interesting to watch like how escalated like everyone's imagination gets when left to their own devices like that. But so we thought, it's obviously something that everybody's interested in hearing about, how the story of the world is going to play a role in the game. I think people can kind of see the balance that the Township Tale is a very freeform game, and at the same time we kind of want to build this world that people are attached to with its creatures and characters. So it's and it is a fun thing to have, and for us, like, it helps us create things when we have a story rather than just creating things randomly. So we thought we'd shed some light on it today.
I think as of right now, the game itself isn't very filled with lore. Like, obviously there's facts about the world, like you can say Spriggles exist and the town has this layout or whatever, like there's these facts, but the underlying history, there's not much to speculate with. Like you can go, okay, well, when we first came here the town was abandoned and there was kind of stuff lying around, like coins and bowls left on the table. Who leaves coins on a table, sort of deal? Like there's things you can speculate with, but there's not a lot of story as such. But where you can get lore currently is reading cosmetics, like the cosmetic descriptions. They have little things about who would have worn these outfits or what these outfits were used for, and obviously trying to interrogate Boramy in chat is the other method people try and use to get lore. But yeah, like right now, as it stands, the game itself doesn't like ooze lore, which is something that will change over time. So
yeah,
I guess it might be hard for people right now to envision a version of the game which does ooze lore, because it doesn't even have much of that at all. Like we don't even have pages of lore in the game. Like nothing really too heavily lore based in the game right now.
Yeah, like I think like as the game develops, and like firstly, a lot of the new content that we make in the game, particularly when it comes to expanding the like the world and the creatures, and as we start to look into what we'll call like smarter creatures that are kind of capable of building their own structures and things like that, you'll see where they fit in the space of the events that happen in like the landscape of the world. Everybody's kind of on the same page that something seems to have happened to this landscape that has caused people to disappear or not be there anymore. People are trying to analyze the like the architecture, I guess, of the different locations to kind of attribute them to different civilizations, I suppose.
Yeah, well, we've got the blue, like everything with the bluey gray stones has the like the hand thing on it. So I mean, like that's sus. Like, that's where all the blue lights and like the skill shrines and the tower and stuff.
So yeah, and at the same time, with all of those kind of thematic things that we tie into like specific cultures, people are trying to fit things within a frame of time, which I think that's going to be the most difficult thing for people to understand is like the timeline of events. But I think that as we start to particularly as we do more things like dungeons, people are really going to get to see like a large scale type of construct that might feature specific details that will help people be like, okay, this this boss looks like this thing has happened to them and they've got these features surrounding them. So I think I can attach that to this other kind of culture or thing that I know of. And I think that's going to help you kind of fit things into different eras of time, which I think it's a fun way to discover a story for something that's such an open world game where we don't have like NPCs or cutscenes or any like scripted narrative. It's really just it really forces us to design like enemies and creatures in a smart way to help portray that idea.
Yeah, it's just about trying to make sense of the world. Like, why is this the way it is? Like, I don't know. How did these shrines get here? Who made these shrines? Like, was it the town folk made these shrines? I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah.
Like, there's just so many, like, these are the sort of questions that we want you to ask. Like, we want you to ask everything. And over time, maybe there'll be answers to these questions. Maybe there's ways you can kind of work out information. Like, we've obviously got, like, an easy example already in the game is the camps in the field, where we've kind of expressed that they're made by some sort of creature that's not in the game yet. That's basically all we've said about it. But I think people kind of concluded that already. They saw that there's banners. They're clearly a different architectural style to, the town. It's not sandstone buildings. It's not red roofs. Like, it's all sticks and leaves and stuff. But the sort of questioning of, who are these people? People have asked, where are they? Like, why did they disappear? And that's why we've clarified they're kind of just not in the game yet.
Yeah.
But yeah, these sorts of things, which I think, to me, being left with questions is exciting, but knowing that those questions might be answered in the future makes it even more exciting. Like, it's something we might learn about or discover.
Yeah, like I think it plays a pretty heavy role in how we choose to design environments. Is like, okay, is there like a question that players have that we can answer that's not like overtly obvious? We kind of don't want to throw the answer right in your face. We kind of want here's a little piece of information that might help them move forward into like this kind of narrative plotline. And so sometimes as we see people deduce things from what we've given them, it's like a part of us is like, oh damn it, maybe they figured out the mystery a little bit. But at the same time, it's kind of intentional that like given the piece of evidence that you have, that you can come to this conclusion. I think like we have to be careful not to skirt too much around the outside of the plot that you never kind of come to a conclusion. I think it's not too satisfying to do that. So I think as the world expands, people will get the answers they're looking for, and it's just a matter of time and for us to develop and grow the content to fill out those answers.
And then there's the whole mechanical side of things as well. Like there's mechanics which will clearly tie into some realm of the game. So your skills all tie into these shrines, for instance. Like there's this avenue where it's not that your blacksmithing skills come from a shrine and your archery skills come from something else. No, they're all coming through these shrines. So, and in the future we'll have more mechanics, more gameplay that you can attribute clearly to some type of thing in the world and kind of make a network of mechanics and places and concepts together.
Yeah, I think people.
I think a lot of this will a lot of things we've talked about here will kind of tie into your experience of the trials to some extent. Like there's things about the trials where you're going to go, okay, now we got to start thinking about this. Now we got to start questioning things that we haven't needed to question in the past. Like we've just accepted things, but now we're going to question them. I think I'm not sure whether the trials will leave people with more questions or more answers, but I think more questions is probably.
Yeah, it'll probably lead to it'll make them question something that maybe people have taken for granted, and then they'll kind of be curious as to what the big answer is, I suppose. Like, I think there's a degree where people who are kind of very conscious of the surroundings will probably be able to make the connection, but I think people will really get it once we have the official enemies that we had planned for the trials, which will take some time because we want to work on the next enemies we're working on are probably going to be more holistic enemies again, so that you can find them in more places. But I think there'll be a very solid step towards what I would call more specialized enemies that you would normally find in the trials. All of which will be it'll click in people's head once they go through the trials. I think what they should expect, because it's it's definitely playing a role in if you didn't watch the trials Altacast with me and Sol, feel free to have a look. We elaborate a bit more on this, but we decided, and part of the reason why it's so art heavy is because we decided to theme the trial based on what we want them to be in the future, as opposed to trying to make it thematically fit the enemies that we're currently using.
Yes. Yeah. I think personally I found that a little bit confusing to some extent, where it's like there's this trial of theme X, which I'm not going to say, but it's like I'm fighting worms, for instance, and it's kind of like I could imagine worms might have burrowed into here, but it's not 100. It doesn't feel like it's not a worm pit. The theme isn't a den of these worms. Do you know what I mean? So it's
Joel hasn't seen the entire level that I'm working on, so he's. You don't have all the details, but there's
I don't think people don't know this that much, because people always ask me questions, and people ask me questions about lore. I try and be aware of the overall what's going on, but I try not to involve myself in the details or see everything too much, because I like it being new for me too. I like jumping into these. I haven't looked too much around these trials, for instance. I've done what I've needed to help do my part of the job, but I'm excited personally to go down there with gear and fully experience the trial as close to what any other player will experience. So
there's as keenly aware as Joel and I are about many of the facets of the game, there are respective details between the technology side that Joel's very deeply familiar with to some of the higher level creative things that I'm in charge of. And so we because Joel gets lore and creative questions, and I get technical launcher and game server questions that I can't answer. And I think that's nice, because we like like Joel mentioned, it keeps a surprise. And like a lot of the times when I'm working on something with Joel, I'll be like, hey, can we have I'd like to have X, and then Joel's like, why X? I can give you something way better than X. Like we can actually do something better than that. And so it's a nice dynamic we have when it comes to working like that, which kind of brings to some of the it's how we've always worked. And early on when we started working on Township Tale, we've always wanted the town to expand into something greater and something more involved that has more significant signs of progression. Currently, when you're in town, and even though you've repaired stuff like bridges and stone bridges and flimsy bridges, as well as like the facilities, they haven't overly changed the landscape of the town. They're primarily like surrounding the access to the outskirts. But something that we've always wanted was if you've repaired this thing, then now the silhouette of the town's changed because now there's this structure that you've fully constructed and repaired.
I almost wasn't sure whether we were going to go. We talked so much about lore. I wasn't sure. We just split the Altacast there.
I mean, I think it ties a bit into lore because it's going to be a method of storytelling for us.
Yeah. So there's obviously two halves to history, right? There's the half that's happened and the half that's yet to come. And so your story, part of your adventure is going to be unraveling the story of the past, but it's also going to be forging your own, story, your own experience. And obviously that's a big part of RPGs is your experience might be completely different to someone else's experience because they've gone down one avenue of their character and upgrading the world compared to yours and the decisions you've made. And right now the town is pretty static. Obviously we have a lot of server flexibility. Some could say too much server flexibility, but we have a lot of server flexibility. So servers differ because of people modding their server effectively. But if it weren't for that, two different vanilla servers are generally quite similar. And aside from things like house building or if players are able to place down structures like cooking stands in the future, we want some level of overall narrative to be expressed in the story. And I'm not sure if there's any examples that I've thought of that. No, here's an example we thought of pretty much first thing in Township Tale was some sort of mill or something, like a lumber mill. I'm not sure we're going to do this, but this was the thought we had 4 years ago. A lumber mill powered by a water stream wheel thing, and water runs down the hill to power this thing. But upstream, this is a dried up river, so it's not turning, you're not getting power, but all the way up the river you find a blockage. But to get up the river you have to fight your way through these enemies, you have to explode this blockage and water flows down. And so there's this kind of narrative that you're experiencing. It's not really lore based, it's more future based, where it's kind of like a story. It's almost like the story mode part of the Township Tale is one of the quests you get is to explode this blockage so that you can get water so that you can power your whatever this building was that had the water turbine thing going. So, and you can scale that up to a huge level if you want to. You can have all sorts of these inbuilt world quests. No one's saying to you, "Hey there, adventurer, please explode that." No one's doing that, but yeah. There's these inbuilt in the world sort of quests that progress and upgrade and expand upon the state of your town. And it could be that on your server you've done all these sorts of things, but on a different server, they've actually approached things in a different order. And so the resources and the abilities that each town has actually kind of differ because of the way they've addressed interacting with this narrative of the world.
Yeah, like I think right now we're at a like it's almost kind of nice that we haven't delved into that yet, because it's given us more time to think about it and to see how like other mechanics that share some parallels kind of develop, like a lot of the repair boxes. And part of the thing that we've always wanted with repair boxes was like more of an element of choice. So at the moment you can only like you either repair it or you don't, and most people will end up repairing everything, but you're never really making like a kind of a branching decision where like, okay, instead of choosing to repair like this plot into this machine, I want to build this other machine instead. That's something that's obviously like it's difficult for like our current legacy servers, because they don't have a because like whoever's repairing is making a very big decision for everybody on the server. But it is something that fits a lot more in line with the private server community, where like ideally people are making communal decisions that are for like the greater good of the township. And so obviously, like so part of the reason we're discussing things like this between Joel and I is that we're planning to kind of tweak town a little bit when housing comes out, and a part of that is to at least open up possibilities for us to support these kinds of transforming mechanics. So they might not happen out of the gate when housing comes out, but a lot of the different locales around town will kind of have something in mind for that to happen. So it's part of the the potential that we want to unlock when it comes to working on the town.
Yeah, in general, these are like the current version of the town it's kind of what we built. It's like we blocked it out, we built it, we've had to make some changes over time, we've added new buildings, but it's kind of been us assembling a static experience for the most part. So with when house building is good to go, Boramy is probably going to spend a fair bit of time recreating these houses with the housing system, which will hopefully be a fair bit of an optimization to their rendering and make it easier for him to make and modify buildings because there's a system to it. But in that process, it's the best opportunity we will get, because he's practically rebuilding the town. It's the best opportunity we'll get to kind of take a step back and think about, okay, well, what do we actually want to change? Because right now it would be incredibly difficult for us to make a large scale change, whereas with house building, it is a large scale change. So it's easier to like do it all at once. Like, like if we, for instance, if we say, you guys are going to need to wipe these particular chunks, we don't want to do that often. So we really want to do these things at once. So it's just a great opportunity to pull things together.
Yeah. And so that kind of covers a bit of the environmental storytelling for the town, some of the way your story expands in the game. There's a quick note I want to talk about with the cosmetics and their lore descriptions. To give all of the story sleuths out there a bit of a hint on how to decipher some of the things that are written on the descriptions, is that you can, when we're writing the descriptions, we're always thinking about like, or at least I am, I'm trying to think about like the individual person who once wore this outfit, and I'm trying to tell like an element of this story when they wore it. So sometimes I see people kind of going onto like this wild tangent of like this global scale story about like this particular outfit, and I think if everybody's kind of looked at it on more of like an individual level, like if this was if this was a TV show or like an animated series, then you would have like then what we're describing is like this character's like personal story in this overall like TV show type of thing. So there's a way to kind of make connections. Like you can make smaller connections and still get something interesting out of the lore that tells a bit about the state of the world. And I think as you collage these stories together, you'll start to understand what like a bit more about what happened, the importance of the events that happened, like how major of an event was this compared to other things. And I like the crazier we start to get with outfits and the more important we see them, I think people will start to understand the world a bit more. We still, for the most part, beyond, there's I can say without spoiling anything major that a lot of the outfits like refer to some kind of bad event that's happened, either like most of which is like portrays it as it being in the future from when that outfit existed. So right now most of the things have skirted around that, and I think as you see this, like the shape that takes place, you'll start to understand what kind of thing happened in the middle. So yeah, it's a fun thing for us to do, to write these descriptions, because it's like the one time we get to write text for the game. So I hope you all will enjoy the future to come with more outfits, and even if you don't buy cosmetics, out of like principle or because you don't have the money, it's a fun thing to do and to go through and read the descriptions. I know Victor reads a lot of them just because he likes to read the lore of everything. But yeah, all right. So that's about half an hour. Joel's gonna have a quick snack break, and then we're gonna move on to the Q&A. Thanks a lot for watching this first half, and we'll see you in just a bit. All right, and welcome back, folks. I'm indeed recording and not streaming, just triple checking that. I mean, maybe one day we'll do one of these live. So welcome to the Q&A section of the Altacast, where we answer your questions that you've posted to us. And yeah, we'll get right into it. Yep, go ahead, kick us off, Joel.
Cool. Question number 1. How likely is a supporter preview housing server? The answer is quite.
Yep.
For those who don't know, one of the things that we've done in the past and we plan to do in the future is have a server just for supporters, just so they can get a bit of insight into a future feature coming. It's kind of just a bit more of a thank you for supporting. There's quite a chance, unless things go wrong, our hope is to indeed have a preview server for housing, so that maybe supporters can come in, maybe they share just 1 or 2 plots, so they can like kind of fight or work together to build the coolest structure they can. Chances are it's going to, my plan personally at least, would be to make it so that you actually have to chop the trees to make the house or whatever. It won't be like a creative mode, you'll still have to put in the effort.
Yeah, I'm sure we can come up with a bit of like a mini game-ish concept, like how in the Turabata preview server, we made them drop coins, and then we had coin repair boxes that you could buy better weapons from to fight the Turabatas with. So it's kind of like sometimes we do like little mini gamey type of things like that, which we might do for housing as well.
Yep. Hey, what other building materials will be required for the housing update, like stone or sandstone? I'm also wondering the same thing about the amount of materials needed. And I'll answer that bit first. There's like 2 questions in here. It will require stuff like stone, sandstone, different woods. I'd say wood is probably the staple that you're going to need. But these sorts of things, we tend to make final decisions later on. there might be new resources or new ways you can use resources. So there's lots of options that might open up. In terms of quantity, house building is probably going to be fairly expensive. It's the sort of thing that we want you to kind of build your house and slowly renovate it and upgrade it over time. Like, it's not going to be the sort of thing where you probably don't want to save up and then build a house. You want to kind of collect the resources and build it as you're going.
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends a bit. People, like, I think some private servers where, storage is, like, more reliable, like, out there storage, people will try and do mega build days.
Yeah.
And I think those will be, they'll definitely function. You'll just have to have gathered, like, all of the resources and stored them, and you may even have to set up, like, a live kind of, like, I imagine it being like an assembly line of, like,
Yeah.
okay, whilst we're building this house, there are people, like, out in the woods cutting trees because we need more wood for, like, this next wing of the building. And I think that'd be kind of cool to see, like, the motion of everything, like, you know, like, the people, I can imagine the people building the house being like, hey, we need more beams, like, where are all the beams at? It's like, oh, the wood cutting team is held up because they encountered, like, some go-terrors that are messing with them at this junction. And so then people have to send out, like, okay, they need some backup. Let's send out our warriors and escort them through the woods.
Next question. What other building material? Wait, sorry. Next part of the question was, do we have plans of bringing other belts into cosmetics? Belts are kind of like our signature cosmetic, like you get lots of gloves and lots of hats and shirts and jackets and stuff, but belts, I think we'll always try and keep them pretty special. I think we are hoping to, we've been discussing the need to put a new belt out into the world, but no information or news about that currently. But yes, there will be more belts.
Yeah.
Boramy, this one, do you want to answer? Will there ever be a party system for grouping up with other players?
Yes, there will be. So it'll probably be, like, getting into a party will probably be a bit more meta than usual for most things, just because it is kind of like this grouping social structure. That being said, quite likely that you'll be able to see their health and hunger. How we're going to display that at the moment, we're still, we haven't decided. Obviously, we could put them, like, over their name, but we don't like that. Like, we hate seeing, like, health bars and stuff above characters. So we'll try and we'll probably have a different method of viewing that.
I reckon it would be kind of cool for that almost not to be a thing, but then maybe there's an ability you can get to see I don't know, to see
to, like, inspect your party members. Yeah, I think,
because to start off with, the fact that I have to tell you, my chef, that I'm hungry is like a cool social thing, whereas if he can just keep track of it, then it's a bit less social, but it would be quite a powerful skill to unlock, to be able to, or even if there's an ability that doesn't show you everyone's hunger, just shows you the minimum hunger of everyone in your party. So you, as the cook, you can be like, wait a second, who's starving? And everyone's like, oh, it's me.
Yeah, it's like you heard someone else's stomach growl, and so you're asking who's hungry in the party. But there's lots of mechanics that we want to tie in with, like, being a party to kind of reinforce that idea. Like, you know, maybe sharing food, like you get extra fullness and nutrition out of it. You could you could get, like, boosted health regen when you're near a campfire with your party members, and lots of different kind of slightly more abstract, but just a bunch of little buffs that can reinforce the idea of you being with your friends and being an official party.
People keep asking us about Shmichi plus sheets, and it's. I don't think anyone is against this idea. It's just we currently don't have the time or resources to like dedicate to looking into this. So Shmichi's plushies are not coming along, to answer the question.
I think we answered that one before, but yeah.
Yeah, I feel like maybe I did answer that one before. Sometimes we miss marking off these questions. I'm not sure if we answered this one either. Plans for alchemy?
We have a whole Altacast on it, so I think we did answer it. But the short of it is it's going to be a bit like chemistry. And if you want to know more about that, I'd recommend checking out the Altacast that Joel and I did. Yeah.
Go to YouTube and search chemistry. This is an easy one. Will there be weather in the game like rain? If so, then how will it affect?
So we do have plans for weather in the game. It's a fairly late. It's going to be a fairly late edition. Sorry, I'm talking a bit. It will possibly induce like a wetness status effect on you that will make you susceptible to some other elements.
And maybe put out torches or make torches dimmer. And
yeah.
Maybe fill up buckets that are left out. Who knows? Stuff like that, like cool little things. When do you expect night vision potions not to be terrible?
I recommend checking out the Alchemy Altacast for that one.
I thought of an answer before, but now I feel cringy saying it, even because I said it to Boramy before. My answer is at night time. But
it's even funny the second time.
I personally haven't looked into it. I've heard that there are some issues with it not, acting as well as people would like, or not working at all, or whatever. It is the sort of thing that we have kind of put off because it's the sort of thing that we do plan to reassess when we do stuff like.
It was a bit of an experimental thing for the effect system to see if how well this type of thing would work. We haven't really overly looked into trying to fix it because we do have a revamp, I guess, incoming for more magical effects. Which is what alchemy will provide.
Are there plans for adding stuff to the climbing system, such as stamina fruit, climbing ropes, fall protection, etc.? The answer is yes. Not to all those things, but yes to more climbing integrated concepts. As with many things in Township Tale, we like to put the system out there and kind of see how the system itself plays with the world, and then see what we can do to mix up that experience. Yes, I'm not sure if we'll see any of the specific elements mentioned here, but there will definitely be things in the future. Will we see different biomes? This one says in the forest, but I'm going to answer in general. Different biomes where you need a specific type of gear to progress, such as cold protection or poison protection. Yes. It's quite likely that we will, one day we're going to have you exploring up into the mountains where it's going to be freezing, and you're going to need to be lighting fires and doing things to try and stay warm. And it's quite possible that we'll have areas where maybe it's hot or electrically charged or something. So having all this metal gear, like these metal weapons, is potentially I don't know, maybe a bad thing, but maybe if it's hot, maybe wood stuff catches fire. So there could be interesting sort of things that come from environments like that. I feel like there were multiple of this question. Being able to store heart fruits, heart flowers, heart plants, whatever they're called, for selling or for a friend?
The answer to that one is no. So we've always seen health upgrades as being a personal journey that people have to take on. We didn't want too much of the game's progression to rely purely on items, so that's why heart flowers are this kind of exist. It's not something that the moment I joined the server and I'm new, someone can't just give me this entire thing and just skip progression for me. So that's part of the reason why we don't allow heart flowers to be a tradable resource.
This question is a bit of a tough one, I guess. I don't know. Will there be any other player-specific stats coming to the game? There are examples like climbing, stamina. But we obviously have like experience and health are our two kind of personal things. So I guess the question is, will there be something else like that?
I suppose they kind of will be. Like we've talked about swimming in the past. Maybe there'll be some stats attributed to that. But also, we've thought a bit about our current skill system and thought about in order to upgrade certain skills, rather than gaining experience from doing like the basic action of that profession, utilizing that skill is what will grant you experience for that particular skill. So, for example, like the power hit that does like the every 3 strikes, the 4th one's extra powerful. You wouldn't get the next level of that by just fighting enemies. Normally, you'd have to utilize the skill, or same deal with wave slash for combat and things like that. Which will make progression more meaningful because it means that you've actually had to use those skills rather than trying to kind of blitz through progression lines by just doing basic attacks. And I think it'll further reinforce specialization within specific trees.
Will mobile camps, tents or something exist at some point?
Yes, I think so.
The funny context of this question is tents don't exist in the game, like non-mobile tents don't exist in the game or do anything at this point. So it's,
yeah.
But I like what this person thinks tents do, but...
Yeah, for us, like it'd be, like we'd want your mobile camp to have function. So tents would need to do something, like maybe there's something really bad that can happen to you if you're not in a tent when it's like thundering and like raining like crazy, like maybe you can get sick. If we're talking like high hypotheticals. And so you'd want to be in a tent because that can provide you shelter if you're in a difficult place. But generally it comes down to like what kind of functions do you want out of your camp. And that will drive a lot of what building an outpost or like setting up a temporary outpost will be.
I'm not sure how much we want to go into the next question, but what kind of combat trials will we be seeing? Will it be like waves of enemies, puzzles you have to solve while fighting, hitting a button with a bow to open a door?
You'll see, like, I think you'll have to wait and find out for that one.
Yeah. Current map, is the current map the end-all limit for the future of the game, or will we expand the map if needed?
If needed, we will expand the map, but we don't see an immediate a need coming anytime soon.
Yeah, it's definitely like of all the questions that are far out questions, this one is pretty up there.
Like we have to fill out the world and be satisfied with its density before we can consider doing that.
How much woodchuck would a mantax chuck if mantax could chuck woodchucks? I think you'll have to ask mantax that one. The mantax cast is tomorrow, coming out tomorrow at midday. If it doesn't, blame mantax. Is there only one language in the game's world?
I think there's only really going to be one language you'll ever be truly exposed with.
Well, I mean, there's clearly the English language because I can read the blacksmith sign pointing to the blacksmith. So
yeah, I mean, I think there's like I think you're not gonna find too much importance coming from language. We're not going to be having too much written text in both in-world language as well as real-life languages. Because it's just, we prefer to describe things in other ways that are more international.
Yeah. Will we have a private garden that only the owner can harvest, or will it be, or
it can be harvested when the owner is home with housing. So farming and housing are probably going to have similar concepts of ownership. So there will be the opportunity for people to add their friends to their farming plots, I suppose. And there may be communal farming plots as well that will allow people to do whatever they want, or with more controlled behaviors. So I think we're going to try and cover the bases for both high traffic servers as well as private servers.
What are your thoughts on adding music to the game?
So music in the game doesn't really have a great place because it's a multiplayer game where you have to listen to people talk and you have to listen to yourself talk. It's always weird to hear music in in this kind of game, I think. But we've talked about collectible music, I suppose, that you could play on a vinyl player or something like that. I don't know.
One of your teammates can have a vinyl player on their back.
Yeah, he's the music, the boombox.
Listen to beats by whoever does the beats.
Beats by Dr. Dre.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think when it comes to battle music for bosses and things like that, we have some ideas on that, and you'll have to wait to see how that pans out.
Yeah. Which dev is best at juggling in game? I think I still hold that title,
Yeah,
but
it's definitely Joel, I think.
we haven't really checked in a while. We haven't really seen. But I could juggle. I've done fairly good three torch juggling or 3 rock juggling or whatever. What's your opinion on the current state of climbing? Is it your ideal scenario, or is it missing things you really want to see? There's obviously a couple minor bugs with it, there's a sliding bug sometimes, which is obviously something bugs. Obviously, bugs are something we want to fix if there's any bugs you know about. As I mentioned earlier, there's going to be equipment. Personally, I would love to see equipment that lets me, I don't know, maybe suspend myself off the side of a cliff so I can go down the cliff and pick stuff or something like that. That's the sort of stuff I would love to see. I don't care so much about going up. I love the idea of
rappelling down.
Yeah.
There's the whole equipment side of climbing that we still want to have, and people really want to, as well as us, really want to kind of grab onto each other to help climb, and things like that. So there's a bunch of mechanics involved, but yeah,
It's probably not coming for quite a while.
No, because it's over network. It's tough to do, and there's a lot I know other games do it that are multiplayer, but they have there's less riding on your life at that point. When it comes to the network stability of it, and you're carrying all of your gear that you've worked your ass off for, and then someone's trying to pull you, and they've got like 300 like latency ping, and like their cat trips over like the cable, and just all sorts of variables are at play that make it a risky operation.
We've talked about the idea of chalk, like dusting your hands before climbing, which we think really, personally, I think it's quite a VR-ish experience. Like it's really playing with your hands rather than just being a stamina stat. It's kind of like you dust your hands, whatever, and then you go to climb. I think that would be pretty cool. So yes, there is more coming. Okay, how much time do we have, just so I can, because we have a lot of questions.
Yeah, we have, we're 23 minutes in.
So
we've got about 7 minutes.
This question about house building, will it be freestyle type of building technique, or will there be predetermined build structures? Like, can you place some things somewhat anywhere, and will you have multiple floors? There's a lot of questions there. First of all, it's the house building system won't be a build literally anywhere system. We'll have predefined plots that you can build on. On that plot, it's not going to be presets. It's not going to be like select building B and build it there. It's going to be free form in the sense that you're choosing where to put walls and floors and roofing and stuff. But it is going to follow a sense of structure. So it's not going to be place a beam literally anywhere. The beams are going to be on a grid sort of system. And to answer the floor question, different plots will have different sizes. I imagine most plots, actually I don't know, I don't know about that, but I imagine most plots will likely be tall enough to accommodate for some sort of second floor, or at least an attic that you could build your, that you could, like in your roofing, you could go up there and maybe store a hidden chest in there or something. So, but definitely some plots will have enough room to build a multi-story building. This person wants a law confirmation, or I predict a denial, that magic costs an arm and a leg, or 2 legs, and that's why everyone is legless.
That's a no. That's a...
what are other cool questions?
There's a quick one here asking about an auto sprint setting, because the joystick click is all messed up. You can change that in the main menu so that it inverts the option, so that you would click to walk rather than the other way around, rather than click to run. So you can, it should be called like invert run walk in one of the tabs.
There's also one-word questions.
Bloody Tendy 402.
Any plans for adding hot springs that heal you in the mines? Those sorts of things. I'm not even sure necessarily that example specifically, but the idea of hot springs that do anything to me is an awesome idea. Like wading through these hot springs that energize you or buff you or heal you. I think it's a really cool thing, and it would definitely add a different experience if you were wading through hot springs, fighting Taravadas who are also getting healed by these. Like everyone is tankier in this environment, so it would be an interesting in a way to mix up the combat experience.
Yeah, I mean, I think they were thinking more of it as like a relaxing thing, and I can see that too. Healing right now, like automatic healing, is probably too fast and too strong to warrant that. But I think we may add a no default regen setting for servers, hopefully sometime soon, because that's the server I want to play on. And I can see those kinds of hot springs being useful for those kinds of mechanics.
I love this question. Can we build weaponry into our houses like a catapult? Or I don't know how do you say this word, ballista or ballistae?
Ballista.
Ballista? Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe.
Damn, I was hoping for an answer to that question too.
What are you going to use it for?
I want a way to be able to set up a catapult that I can put items in and have them land in my friend's house. Shoot my...
So you can it's like a delivery system.
I shoot it through the window of the blacksmith into the smelter coal thing, so I can launch my coal all the way to that's definitely something that we'll have to assess down the line. There's some of these questions are so long, it's hard for me to assess what the question is.
Yeah. I think we'll do the last two questions. So.
Okay. Obviously, any questions we don't answer, they're going to stick around till next week, and they're going to keep their votes. So hopefully, they'll be pushed to the top. Okay, this is a silly question, so hopefully the last one is not. But could a small worm's hole it lives in be inside a large Tarabata?
That sounds so creepy in terms of the feeling of it. It's like
you kill the Tarabata, it cracks open, and it's just hundreds of worm eggs, and then
yeah, you see a Tarabata just kind of stumble and struggle to live, and then it just pops, and then it's like watching popcorn ooze out of a bag.
This won't be the last question, but will the supporter belt ever be coming back? The answer is no. When we did it, we very clearly said it's exclusive. As I mentioned earlier, we are in the talks of, when we will do another belt, which will happen eventually. Here's a question. Is there ever going to be a dueling mechanic where I can enter a duel with a friend?
Possibly. It's becoming more and more of a thing we're somewhat considering. We just want a really nice interaction to kind of do that sort of thing that doesn't feel overly tacky, I guess. But it's it's a possibility. I'm particularly thinking about it because of the as the power curve starts to increase dramatically as players will get stronger and stronger with the way the game's content is going to grow. The difference between a new player and an old player is going to be even greater, and I wouldn't want them accidentally bumping their sword into a level 1 player and insta giving them. So
yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's lots of interesting aspects about that as well. I think it could be fun to do some sort of I don't know, tie in some effects to it or something, or
Yeah.
make it a bit of a cool mechanic. Or
I mean,
the
yeah,
other
like,
thing is,
there's an aspect of it where we can go really meta with it, and it could be kind of a fun thing, like, where it kind of is like in Borderlands when you enter a duel with someone, like it creates boundaries around where you're
Yeah.
fighting, and then like battle music plays, and I think it's kind of like a funny.
yeah. But I could also imagine, like, kind of like a friend card. If I could do the duel thing and two
Yeah.
duel cards pop up in front of me, one is like a friendly duel, and the other is like a duel to the death. And so I can offer you like a friendly duel card, and you can be like, oh yeah. And the way that works is when one of us dies, it kind of doesn't kill you. Maybe like it just represents that I've won the duel, and
Yeah.
we're back on whatever starting health we have. But then we could duel to the death, which is like when whoever dies. It's like they drop all their stuff and they're sent all the way back to spawn. And that way there could be, you get the best of both worlds of just being able to spar with a friend without, them having to walk all the way back to spawn.
Yeah, but then you can
So I
even
think
do high stakes fights. Yeah.
with stuff like that.
Yeah.
I guess that's it.
That's it. Thanks a lot for tuning into this Altacast. Hope you enjoyed it. As you can tell, I am back in my home. Thanks a lot for everybody who gave me company when I was in quarantine. And yep, see you next time. Thanks a lot for watching.
Goodbye.